Hey folks, it's Nate. Thanks for joining me once again as we look to the horizon. And I am back with the latest writing vlog update. I have about 4 essays written in my essay series. I currently have 6 sketched out. So I have been going kind of gangbusters on this. I like that. It tells me that I will be able to get pretty far ahead during this essay series and then hopefully really drill down on the gospel according to earth and get that all thumbnailed out and ready to go. So, yeah, I have a couple more essays to write. 2 of them are on the topic of visual storytelling, which is something as a comic writer that I think a lot about. And I have never really tried to talk too much about it in my prose essays, in no small part because um, I'm not very good at writing description. This is something I've been struggling to overcome for the past couple of years. I really think I need to drill down on it more, and I'm hoping these essays will kind of help me to develop a set of mental disciplines that will help me to describe things in words. I think one of my problems is I am so fascinated by comics and drawing as well as prose that I often tend to think that I can just, you know, do a quick passive description and then come back in and fill in details if I need to. The problem is the visual part of my mind often kicks in when I am then rereading and redrafting, and I don't think I need to. And a lot of readers, the people I've asked to test read and look at manuscripts I'm working on, tell me I need to. So that is definitely a hurdle I have to work out. And I'm thinking these 2 essays on visual storytelling will hopefully help me with that. I have chosen 2 of the most visually striking stories I have taken in the last couple of years. One of them is called the Shiori Experience, which is a manga about a band, essentially. And it's really fascinating because attempting to visually tell a story about music is very difficult. Now, you can do it in a movie because they have a soundtrack, ditto for a TV show. But a comic or a manga about music, that's much more difficult. And I have seen some interesting takes on it. I recall one manga I read about a conductor who had synesthesia. So he would literally see various things, colors, visual imagery as he conducted music. That was interesting, but the synesthesia was a little bit on the nose, as it were. It's really only a technique you could use if you were willing to, go to that length and say, okay, my protagonist has synesthesia or some other kind of special sensory quirk that allows them to see music. The Shiori experience is fascinating because it really does things with there's a visual language in manga especially to show impact, and this comes from the shonen tradition, which is about there's a lot of action in the shonen tradition where you get things like Dragon Ball and Naruto. Even well, no, Attack on Titan is not really shonen, but it draws on a lot of the same visual imagery to show that sense of motion, that sense of impact, that sense of weight. And in the Shiori experience, all those techniques are translated from an action sequence to an audience experiencing a piece of music to show how it is hitting them and all the really impressive emotional moments that come with that. There has been a sequence where they go to a battle of the bands and they perform a whole set, 4 songs, and each song is given its own chapter. And Shiori Experience is a monthly, so that's like 35 to 40 pages for one song, and it just lets you see the audience and the way they react to the music and the impact it has. It's really brilliant. There's another sequence where the ghost of Jimi Hendrix and the ghost of Kurt Cobain, and yes, that sounds weird, but bear with me. They meet and and they have a moment where there's dueling electric guitars, and the portrayal of that is amazing because you literally see waves sweep through the audience and sweep the audience up, and they shoot into the air, like a geyser, to give it a visual image to the intensity of these two brilliant guitarists meeting and testing one another's skills. And of course, no one is actually, the building is not crushed by tidal forces or anything like that, but they use these brilliant visual metaphors to tell the story. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I just watched The Hyperions a couple of weeks ago when it premiered on YouTube, and that movie is fascinating because visually it's going for this weird retro 1970s aesthetic, but it has mixed in sequences of animation to give you an idea of how there's one character who's the professor in that is a little bit detached from reality, and when he's up in his own head, some of those sequences are animated, which is a really great way to show that he is a step disconnected from reality. And those kind of visual storytelling techniques are great. And I'm hoping that as I begin to write down my thoughts on them, I will begin to develop techniques for thinking and describing that will allow me to do the kind of character work I like to include in prose and in dialogue, also in description, as well as building the world. Because, of course, obviously, that's the primary purpose of description. This is what the things around you look like. That's what it's generally used for. But also putting that extra layer on it so it is more and more efficient. Because one of the reasons I tend to skim very lightly over dialogues, I feel like I'm not doing as much as I could be with, a sense of description as opposed to with a sentence of dialogue or with a sentence of, pretty much any other part of the story. So I'm hoping that as I think about that and the clear layers of visual metaphor and strength and description that those properties bring to the table, I will be able to unpack some of those secrets. So that's why I have those two particular essays on tap. And who knows, they may actually take, since I'm dealing with something I'm not very good at in those particular essays, I'm hoping, there's a possibility they will go slower than what I've already written. And they are the last two on tap. So we'll see what happens there. But all in all, I am optimistic. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. There's a like button and a subscribe button down below. You can use those as you see fit. I will talk to you later.